Parents, what is the most shocking thing you've heard, witnessed, or experienced upon meeting your child's new boyfriend or girlfriend? He recounted the story of when he drove home so drunk he lost a tire hitting something, then drove on the rim for at least 4 miles down the interstate. Thankfully, he's sober now, but is that something you want to talk about first time you meet me? Ex-girlfriend's mom greeted me with, "Did you convince my daughter to go on birth control so you could do her?" I was shocked to say the least because we had only been dating for a few weeks and she was a virgin. I wasn't pushing the issue because I really liked her. In my confused state, the GF at the time explained to me that she told her mom she wanted to do it with me and needed birth control. First encounter with her mom, and I never recovered from that. She hated me. A quote from my dad. "I didn't expect her to be black. Nothing negative, both my parents just didn't see it coming. When I was 16, I met this girl who went to high school across town through a buddy who was dating her friend. Our parents were pretty liberal and we spent most of our weekends getting high and drunk in the pool house and swimming when we wanted to cool off. Needless to say, it took about 3 days before I lost my V-card to this girl, and it was the awesomest. Here's the thing, when you're 16 and you find a girl who is DTF, you never let that go. I was immediately her boyfriend, despite the fact that I didn't know that much about her. I knew everything that I needed to know. She had a female port and she let me put my male port in it. Week 2 of this torrid romance and something isn't quite right in the land down under. It was really burning when I took a wee, like every time. I went to Catholic school, so I knew all about how Satan invades extramarital SX and fills your lust pole with STDs. I knew I had one. The only question was which one. A lot of people asked, wait, this girl gave you an STD? You dumped her, right? Let me refer to the previous statement. I was 16 and she was letting me do it with her. We only got more serious, like getting close to meet the parents serious, but love didn't cure whatever evil was festering in my pants, and I had to schedule a doctor's appointment. In the exam room, I had to fess up to my doctor, who I had always suspected of secretly being gay. My terrible suspicions that I had third-degree wee-wee rot with a chance of AIDS. I had to pee in a cup and he manually examined my no-no area. He asked me why I suspected I had caught an STD, and in the spirit of doctor-patient confidentiality, I told him everything, which came out to, I met a random girl from across town and I've been doing it with her everywhere. Pools, bushes, suburbans, rugs, carpet, dirt piles. I don't know much about her, but if she's willing to do it with me, she's probably kind of a lady of the night. It took me a week, but the results came back. I had a benign UTI, most likely from bareback riding in dirt piles. Clean it up was his advice. That was the giant relief and a big F you to Sister Helen, who had convinced me that God punishes all fornicators with a lifelong curse of phallic fire. Everything seemed to be great, the down-under problems cleared up, and this girl and I kept seeing each other. After a few months, she invited me to her family dinner. Her mom was nice and pretty hot. Her dad was my doctor. I could leave it there, just because I think the story ends where it should, but for those who want some Animal House-style wrap-ups, here it is. All in all, it was super awkward, because it took me a while, months, to believe that he wasn't just watching for the right time to confront me about it. I couldn't look him in the eyes, and I couldn't look her mom in the eyes because I was staring at her chest, convinced that he had told her. But it turned out that her dad was super cool. He never even mentioned anything other than telling me that I should start seeing a different doctor. He let me drive his super nice car, and they took me on family vacations. They even let me sleep over in the same room as their daughter. As for the girl, we dated through most of high school. She was a year younger than me, so we broke it off when I went to college. She actually went to the same college that I did, and we got back together for a little while, but it didn't work out. I implied she was a woman of loose morals, but I would like to rescind that comment. I'll admit, once I read the bit where it's like my doctor was her father, I didn't believe it. I mean, this latter bit, it helps kind of like, cement and pull it together a little bit, but I'm still like on the fence about whether this is just a work of fiction. First time my mother met my high school girlfriend was walking into my bedroom with my girlfriend completely naked on the bed and me fully clothed on the computer. Nothing out of the ordinary here. I was the girlfriend in question. I'd come over to my long-distance relationship boyfriend's apartment on the way out of town. I had dressed in a plaid skirt, fishnets, combat boots, and a low-cut black tank because I wanted to leave him with a good memory. Things are getting saucy, downright dirty even, when suddenly his dad comes in. He'd come by early to take him to lunch and drop him at his job. I was absolutely mortified during the entire lunch with his dad, dad's girlfriend, and my boyfriend. I never thought I would strike a teenager until I saw a boy smack my daughter's butt in front of me with impunity. And I think any man or father would agree that you had every right to do so. My boyfriend in high school was a senior at a different school. I was a sophomore. At their school homecoming game, it was a tradition for all seniors to dress up in camouflage. So my mom first met him when he was dressed head to toe in black and white camouflage and wasn't aware of the tradition. As he was walking towards us, she said, "Oh, God, no, and didn't realize I'd hurt her. To be fair, he was pure scum. As if coming out to my parents wasn't already shocking news, I told them a year later that I'm dating someone who's only a couple of years younger than my parents, and that I'm only interested in dating men far older than my age. We've been together for almost 5 years, married just 2 months ago, and my parents are now very accepting of us both. Strangely, they were more bummed out about me being gay than our age difference. Let's see, this goes back to 2007. First time my now ex-wife and I had met in person. Long-distance relationships are less socially stigmatic now than they were 7 years ago, but 5 years together, 2 of them married, were too much, and so she's my ex-wife. So we're sitting in a hotel watching an excellent post-coital episode of Burn Notice. Great frickin' show, yeah? Of course. When her phone rings, she picks it up, it's her mom. She says some things I really didn't understand at the moment because they seemed like gibberish, and they sighed and handed the phone to me, and this is the first thing I've ever heard this woman say, "Do you have a gun pointed at my daughter?" I fell over laughing. She'd worked out a code with her mom some years before when she left to go to college to have something like a safe word so that her mom could call the cops and save her. I actually think that's a great idea for people who have that kind of lifeline. That is a great idea, but imagine if that person is just not on point, doesn't remember the phrase or like what the topic is that you're supposed to say if you're in trouble, and they're just like, okay, why are you talking about this stuff? What? That'd be awkward, to say the least. I'm way too late to the game here, but that's all right. My grandfather graduated high school at 14 and started med school at 16. When he went on his first date with my grandmother while he was 16 and my grandmother was 14, he had to wait downstairs with her father as she finished getting ready. So my great-grandfather starts asking him all sorts of questions. Mainly, what does he do with his time? So my grandpa gives him the rundown. Well, I'm 16, I'm captain of the basketball team, I'm in med school right now, sir. My great-grandfather told him that he wouldn't have his 14-year-old daughter date a liar since there was no way he was 16 and in med school and the captain of the basketball team. He thought he was either lying about his age or lying about being in med school to impress him, so he kicked my grandpa out. My grandpa's mom had to call my grandma's dad to verify his story before my great-grandfather would let him come back to the house to take my grandma. Not me, but my oldest sister, then 19, asked if she could bring her boyfriend of a few months to my dad's 45th birthday meal. They said yes, and we were all excited to meet him. They were both over 30 minutes late, and the guy turned out to be a kid my dad was neighbors with and used to play with as a child. He spent the rest of the meal making jokes about how they knew each other as kids, and now he was boning his kid, and that they'd know the entire time about the connection and not bothered to give us any prior warning because they thought it would be funnier for my dad to find out this way. No idea how my dad managed to keep his cool. Some people just have zero class whatsoever. Not really on topic, but this is one for the parents who make snap judgments about kids' choices of who they date. This all started when I was 18. I'm now 30. I just graduated EMT training and was out with some friends celebrating, and this beautiful girl that had been in the nursing program at our school started chatting me up. I had spoken to her a few times at school, mostly hi, how are you, etc. Well, we ended up going on a few dates, mostly just dinners and movies, the usual, and she asks if I want to come with her to her family cookout. Well, obviously, I said sure, why not, and went to meet her family. I'll pause here to add that at the time I was 329 pounds, so not a small guy, and I'm 6'5". However, I had also lost almost 100 pounds before going to school with her, which she did not know at this point. I fought a thyroid disorder all through middle and high school and worked my butt off to get my weight under control and find the right medication so I wasn't just a fat lazy bum as some might call me. I knew from some of our conversations that this girl was really into physical fitness and the like. I told her that I was going to the gym and trying to lose at least 100 pounds, and she seemed encouraging and offered to even go with me. Well, the weekend cookout comes along and I meet the parents. We get there and everyone's outside cooking out and enjoying the pool, etc. I've never had body image issues or problems with my man boobs, so I take off my shirt and join in after meeting the parents and having what I thought was a good first talk. I notice while I'm sitting talking to one of her relatives, I think it was her uncle, that she's giving me these weird looks. Well, about an hour later I ask someone where the bathroom is, and when walking in the house to find it, I overhear this girl and her father talking in the kitchen. I'm not usually one to spy on someone, but I couldn't help myself. I figured the dad was telling her I wasn't good for her or something. I was right on both accounts. What I heard was, I didn't spend my life working hard and sending you to private school and buying you anything you desired so you could end up with some fat slob piece of crap like that out there. He has zero respect for himself. How can you expect him to respect you? Well, I was a little annoyed at this point point, so I figured I'd back out and leave and call her later and see how she wanted to handle this, if we needed to call it quits or what. Before I could turn around though, I hear her reply, "I only brought him home to make you and Mom mad. I find him disgusting, but it's worth it to let you know you can't tell me what to do." Yeah, at this point, I'm really angry. Upon hearing this, I walk into the kitchen and let my feelings be known. I informed her dad that yes, I'm fat, but that I was 430 pounds just a year and a half ago, and still losing weight, and sorry I wasn't born with perfect genes that made me fit and perfect in his eyes. But as he stated, he worked hard to provide for his daughter. I worked damn hard to overcome my challenges and will continue to work on them. After that, I turned to the daughter and said I was glad I could be her token fat guy for the day, and if she'd pack me a few racks of ribs, I'd take my fat, happy butt home. Fast forward about 12 years and I had gone back to school and graduated with my paramedic certs. I'm at this time about 230 pounds. I'm still a big dude, but a lot of it's muscle now, and I just have a large frame to begin with. Well, I was on the ambulance and received a call for a patient in cardiac arrest. Went en route, hit the lights, and hauled butt to the call. Upon arriving to the scene, we are directed to the patient, and I honestly stopped dead in my tracks as I came round the corner and realized the patient was the girl's dad. After about a 2-second, well, doesn't life work in mysterious ways, pause, I immediately began intubating him, and my partner got our monitor set up while a fire crew member takes over compression. We work him for about 3 or so minutes on scene and decide to move him to the truck. Once loaded and en route to the ER, I continued working on him in the box. After about another 4 minutes, I finally got a shockable rhythm and proceed to try and jumpstart his heart. Takes about 4 rounds, but finally get his heart in a normal sinus rhythm and get him to the ER. I turned him over to the docs and went back in service, just thinking about how much of a female dog karma was that Mr. Fit had a heart attack when I was the fat slob piece of crap, and how ironic it was that I'd be the one to respond to that call. Well, about a week later, I get a call from the hospital that a patient I brought in wants to thank me. After learning it was this gentleman, and he donates a large sum of money to the hospital, and getting the PR speech from the suits at the hospital, I'm thinking this is going to end bad. I made my way over to the hospital after a shift, and when I got to his room, I realized when I walk in he has zero memory of me. Not surprising since it was so long ago, but I have also changed a lot physically. He thanks me, I do the usual, it's just my job speech, etc. Well, I was thinking, cool, got past this, no drama, it's over, all good, not so fast. He proceeds to tell me it's frustrating that even guys like us in good physical shape that take care of themselves can still have heart attacks while there's people out there that eat anything they want, weigh God knows what, and still walk around with luck. That really ticked me off, but I held it for a while and said, yeah, but that's just the way life is, and try to work my way out of there. Just as I'm about to cut and run, it hits me. What can I say without being a total butt and really ticking off the doctors outside? As I'm walking out, I tell him, glad I could help him out, and it's not bad work for a guy who used to be a fat slob piece of crap. I turned around and walked out, but I noticed that little light of recognition in his eyes as I left. That was about 6 months ago, and I've received several messages from him since then wanting to meet and talk, but I've ignored them, as I really have no desire to hear what he has to say. At best, it's an apology for how he acted back then. At worst, he'll try and take me to task for being a butt to him, and I'm good without it either way. Moral, I guess, is always treat others how you want to be treated, as someday you may need them, or something like that. Words to live by, but you also can't hold on to crap that people have said to you over the years, because yeah, while it might be good if maybe you do get revenge or an opportunity to prove yourself to that person and show them that they were wrong about you, sure, that's good. But if you let it fester and you're thinking on these things that happened like years and years ago, like all the time, it can twist you up inside, no joke. My ex-boyfriend dropped a bag of booger sugar on the floor. He told my dad it was sugar because he was diabetic. My dad promptly told him to leave and never come back. That was the nice way I put it. He was not that nice. My mom didn't say a word, not the best time to say, "But daddy, I love him," on my part, and then he asked me if I was on the booger sugar too. Not a parent, but my girlfriend met my mother last year for the first time. After my mother had a long discussion with us about the seriousness of texting and driving due to some news program she watched, my mom just drops the serious talk and starts casual conversation with her. First thing she asks is, "Do you have any siblings?" To which my girlfriend responded, "I had a sister, but she died in a car crash." Now, this was a complete joke, but my mom is not the humorous type. I literally cringed so hard. Not gonna lie, sounds like your girlfriend had a pretty good sense of humor. Started seeing who is now my ex-wife when after about a month and a half of dating, we got pregnant with our daughter. Met her and her parents at a restaurant for dinner to tell them that she was pregnant and what our plans would be going forward. Her father looks at me and the first thing he said was, "Talon 74, why did you have sex with my daughter?" Mind you, she was 21 at the time and I was 24. After a few seconds, I replied, "She took off her shirt and asked me if I was going to do her or not." So I did, followed by me immediately getting up and walking right out of the restaurant. Me, my ex-girlfriend, and her sister's friend were sitting outside on the back step getting ready to smoke the devil's lettuce. Her dad had recently left for a couple of weeks, and before he left, he said to me, "Don't do anything that you wouldn't do if I was around," and told him I would behave. Anyways, we're outside and her mom was at work, or so we thought. So I take the bowl and smoke, and her sister's friend goes, "Ah, crap." I turn around and there is my ex's mom staring at me with eyes of fury. As a punishment, she made me and my ex-girlfriend watch Pinocchio, and she grounded her for like a month. Anyone else heard that Snoop Dogg's apparently quit smoking the devil's lettuce? I'm waiting for that to be some kind of like campaign for some new product or something that he's making, I don't know. During my angsty phase, I brought home a guy with a safety pin through his eyebrow and a foot-tall blue mohawk. Within 5 minutes of entering my household, he managed to insult my mother's interior decorating skills and shoot my little sister in the eye point blank with a Nerf gun. We left before he could even meet my father, who would surely have ended up in prison for whatever he did to the dude. Happened to a uni mate. He went to pick up his girlfriend from the parents. They had been dating for a few weeks, and this was their first time meeting. Her house was on a reasonable hill, and while parking, he rolled back into the dad's car. So in his first few sentences to the parents, he had to explain that he had damaged their car, apologize, and then convince them to let their daughter get in his car to go to a movie. They let her go, and it became a running joke with the family. My family is very chill. Poop is discussed while eating and such. With this in mind, my 16-year-old brother brought home a fairly good-looking girl, tall, smiled a lot, outgoing, older. One of the first conversations we all have together after they go to his room to fool around is how they met 2 days before off of Tinder and only got together so that they could fool around for the summer before she left for college. Then proceeded to ask my mom to provide her with birth control as her mother would not. That happened. Talk about inappropriate dinner conversation. Also, there is a startling amount of people that aren't parents like talking about this stuff. It's all just kids talking about how their dates disappointed their parents. In my early 20s, after getting kicked out of college, I lived with my parents. The way their house is set up is a big staircase down, basically, in the middle of the house, which is almost completely open. There are no hallways in the house. Anyways, at the bottom of the staircase is the kitchen with an opening from where the sink is. Well, my mom has some weird sixth sense when she knows I have a girl over, and it is never the same one. This would typically happen on weekends. My mom would be washing dishes and yelling my name, saying, "Come down for breakfast." Only problem is there's a random girl in my room. 90% of the time, the chick would freak the hell out and be like, "Holy crap, how am I going to get out of here without meeting this woman?" My mom doesn't care one bit. In fact, she invited them to join us for breakfast. Sometimes I'd walk the girl down and say, "Hey, this is blah, blah, blah," but sometimes I'd send them down by themselves and they'd just dart out of the front door. God damn, those moments were frickin' priceless. My 17-year-old daughter had been talking to a friend of a friend on Facebook. He was supposedly in the army, just finished basic, and was at a base in Texas. One Friday night, he showed up at our house. We live in Missouri. He flew in to surprise her. She was surprised. I was mad. Asked him how long he was in town, where he was trying to stay. The punk kid used all of his money to buy his one-way plane ticket and take a cab to our house. I ended up driving this kid back to the airport, buying a plane ticket for him, and sending him back on his merry way. Turns out, he thought he would just not go back to his base and live at our house until my daughter finished high school. Yeah, not happening. She is 25 now, and we were just laughing about this last week when she and her husband were having dinner with us. That was one crazy, scary guy. Yeah, I gotta hard agree there. That sounds like a kind of terrifying event to happen in your life, some random dude showing up. Especially some weirdo that's just been casually chatting with your daughter for I don't know how many months. My girlfriend, now wife, met my parents for the first time at my dad's surprise 60th. In her nervousness, she proceeds to get plastered and is repeatedly shushed by my mother during speeches for laughing too loud and long with my mom's friends. The next morning, she's hating life as she comes downstairs for breakfast. My older brother, who has the maturity of a 13-year-old boy, sees her in distress and proceeds to wave a platter of eggs and bacon under her nose. As she bolts for the bathroom, my mom, who has a long career in addiction fields, pulls me into the hallway and asks me, does she do this a lot? A less than auspicious entry into my family. First time I met my ex's dad, we were sitting in front of the TV. Me, him, her, and her two younger sisters, and we were watching Hannah Montana. Just for the record, he turned to me and asked, "Are you sleeping with my daughter?" I replied awkwardly, I'm not sure, We totally were. Turned towards my ex and asked, are we sleeping together? She casually answered, not taking her eyes off of the TV, "Yes, Daddy, we're sleeping together." Direct. Confident, I presume. All good traits. What happened? When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. And if you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Linked in the description below.